Today we're going to be working on one of these dirts that I made. So I made a sand and a pebbly dirt here, and then on the right over here is like kind of a cracked dirt. So you can see this is the diffuse direct and the specular, just so you can see how it's kind of reacting. So I made all these textures just in Photoshop by grabbing them off textures.com like you've seen me do before, and then just using the diffuse channel and then creating every other map that I'm going to be using for it. So I'll just go through how I did that. So I'm going to select this cracked dirt over here to demo. This one was really simple, this sand, and this one was pretty simple. This is probably the more challenging one. I wasn't completely happy with it. It still needs to be worked out a little bit, but I did a linear workflow for this one, and I'll kind of show you what that is all about. All right, so I'm going to open up Photoshop. So when I started the image, the first thing you need to do whenever you're working linearly is in your color space. Your color space needs to be higher than 18-bit, so 16-bit or 32-bit, and your color profile needs to be a linear color profile. So I was just using linear RGB. There's probably some other color spaces you could use. What linear is usually images that you would get offline are sRGB, which are gammaed up to a 2.2 gamma, because it's kind of, I'll just quickly demo what this is about. So a computer, like the human eye, sees more of the mid ranges, and there's a lot of people that have explained what this is about. So usually a linear gamma curve is like almost like a straight line up, straight up. So it goes from 0 to 1 directly. So the computer sees like this. So every value in between, it just ramps up in a completely 0 to 1 linear fashion, which means it's just one straight line. So an sRGB gamma curve is curved because the human eye sees much more mid ranges than it does darks and lights. So a sRGB curve kind of looks like this. So it just takes all of these mid-range values and it pushes them out this way. Just know that every image on the internet that you see is going to be this sRGB 2.2 gamma, and linear images like this. And if you want to take an sRGB image and make it a linear, you would do an inverse gamma. I think it's like 0.4545, something like that. You can look up the actual math about how all this works, but just know that whenever you're working in a renderer, renderers really do work better if you are using 0 to 1 data, because it wants information, and information is best viewed from the computer in like this direct 0-1 range. It just has much more data, and so it just likes that data. All right, so let me open up what the original image was. Let's see if I can try to find it. Nope, that's not it. This one, discard embedded. Okay, so this is the RGB version of this image, straight offline. So you can see that it's got a little bit of color information. So what I did is I actually took this sRGB image and I put it into my linear workflow. And you can see what happens. It actually reverse gammaed this sRGB and it looks super washed out. So what I did is I took that diffuse information and I just tried to get some information back. So what I did was I did a levels to kind of crunch it down again. And this is in the linear workspace. So it's almost back to where it was before after I did those levels. So I just kind of took it back down. Then I added another levels basically so I could get these, because in the diffuse, what you want to do is you want to get rid of the shadows. Like I've said in many videos before, you just want to remove shadow information and remove specular information and just have diffuse information. So what I try to do is lift out some of these like really dark areas, because that's a shadow, because this thing is lifting out a little bit. So I took that out, and then I did a photo filter just to make it my local color warmer, kind of like this brown dirt. And then I made it a lot crunchier just so that I have more color data and just like a more well-rounded image. And I think what I did here is I just added a noise just to give it a little more data in there, because I had lost a little bit whenever I was gammaing everything down. And this image, like, you know, wasn't super great, but yeah, so I just added a little bit of noise in there. Let's see if I can, yeah, I think I just did a noise, and then I just I did an overlay, and then I just, let me see if I can just look at it. Okay. So this is what it originally was. I just made a layer, and then I think it was a black layer, and then I did noise, and then I did add noise, and just made it like that. All right, so let's do overlay. I think that was overlay. Let me just undo. Yeah, I just inverted it and then did an overlay, and then I brought down the value just slightly. Somewhere around there. Okay. So this is like really the same workflow that I've done before in all the other videos when I'm working with these. So I just made the diffuse, and then I made the spec, which I just duplicated the diffuse. And I think, let's see here. Just see what I did here. I think it's pretty much the same workflow. Yeah, so this is the point where we were on the diffuse, and then I added just a hue saturation and a little bit of levels. That's it. So this is what the regular diffuse was down here that I copied, and then I just added this, or desaturated it, and then I just made it a little bit crunchier. And then for the roughness, all I did was invert it. I just took this spec and I just duplicated it and then inverted it. You don't even really need to do this. You can do it straight in render. I just made it for whatever reason. Okay, and then let's see, the first one that I made is probably this displacement broad. So I did a color range on this original image. So let me click on this. I did a selection color range, and then I got a value like this, and then I made 2 layers. Made the first one black, and then this one white. Then I copied them together. Oops. Let's see. There we go. Now they're together. I think I blurred it a little bit. And probably levels as well. I think that I copied it, blurred it again, and then I did probably, basically you want to do is you just want to, you know, get a signal that is calling out using white to raise these little platforms, and then the black is going to lower it. So I got a signal like this after messing around with a little bit. So it's actually turned out to be a little bit too soft than I was looking for. So I probably need to go back in and mess around with that. But for now, just for demonstration purpose, we're just going to use this. And then, you know, the back and forth will come later when we're art directing it. So for the displacement broad, what I did was I made 2 of them. And the reason is I kind of wanted 2 things to be happening. So let me bring back the image that I have here. So in this image, you can see that it's like, there's like these little dishes. It's like cupping up. and then it's also going down in. So it's this area here is going into the surface, and then it's also like kind of make these little bowls that are just like bowling up like this. So what I had to do is I had to mix two displacements together. This was just the way that I did it. You could probably do it in a single map, but I knew that all I had to do, because I wanted to dial them separately. So, because I wasn't really sure what I was going to get from that value. So what I did is I just took this displacement broad that we made earlier, duplicated it, and then I just inverted it. And then I did a blur, or let's see, a levels. And I think I just blur it just to take it in a little bit, something like that. Then probably did more levels to it, bring out those whites. So what I'm really trying to do here is I'm trying to again. Yeah, I got something like that. What I'm trying to do is when I'm mixing them together, you can see that these black areas are going to be going down a little bit. So it's almost like scooping it out. And then this white area is actually going to be raised because white means up, black means down. So these two values will mix together and they'll create that little cup shape that we're looking for. So just the same process that we've been going through before. Oh, and then for the displacement fine, what I did was I took the diffuse. Let's see, go to image adjustments. So I just flattened that, desaturated it. Then I go to filter, other, high pass. And what the high pass will do is it gives you that really high frequency detail that we want. And I'm going to do a levels to this. And just, bring out some of those values a little bit more. All right, something like that. Just that high frequency detail. And that'll be added into this displacement broad and these other two broads. So what I did was after I finished that, so I have the diffuse, the speck, the roughness, which honestly you could just have the speck and then invert the map in Maya. I don't even know why I made that. But if you wanted to make this map differently, if you wanted different parts of it to be rough, then you can do that. Usually these are the inverse of each other. Okay, and then the displacement fine, the displacement broad, and then this displacement broad 2, which was just another broad, but just performing a different task. All right, so once I save these out, since I'm working linearly, and this is a 16-bit linear RGB file, I'm going to save as, and I need to save this as a TIFF and as a copy. So not all file types will accept a linear RGB color space, so a linear color space. So, TIFF does, and actually, I'm not sure. I don't know. I guess it looks like it does, but I'm not sure it actually does. But yeah, so anyway, I usually just use TIFF just to be safe. All right, so we can see that I saved out a diffuse, the displacement broad 2, the displacement fine, the roughness, and the spec. Cool. Once I have those, let's rebuild this. So I'm going to let's just make a new file. Actually, no, I don't want to redo my lighting. So I'll just show you what my lighting is. So I've got this. I mean, this is, I'm not really a lighter, but I just have this area light in front that is just, what I can do is I can turn on isolate select, and I can isolate lights, just like you can isolate objects and textures and things like that, depending on what you're clicking. You can actually isolate lights as well, or this camera, and this will just give you exactly what. So I lit this front part with this area light that's kind of this blue color, and then a orange color for the back part of it, and then I have the spotlight just kind of giving it these rims so you can kind of get a good silhouette of each one of those materials. And then I have an HDR that I just turned down a little bit just to give it some fill. So, and these are all three together, or all four, I guess. All right, so let's build this material. So I'm going to make a new folder here, and it's just so I keep these other things in there already. So we'll just call this demo cracked dirt and build it out like this. So I'm just going to delete these other ones, and we're just going to use this one. All right, so what it is, this is just simple ground plane, and this is just a sphere. That's it. And then I just laid out the UVs for these. Like I've mentioned in many other videos, you know, just you should know how to lay out UVs by now. If you don't, go watch my previous videos. Okay, so we've got this. Let's go to our camera. I'm going to do a 1K render just so that it's a square. We don't have to render things we don't need to. All right, I'm just gonna move this over. Pause this. Put these on top of each other so they're not in the way. And these are just our material spheres. So this is my glass, this is my 50% gray, and this is my metal. Just so I can, you know, get a gauge of where I am. I should probably start using, I think it's called I forget what it's, Macbeth chart, I think it's called. And a Macbeth chart is like, basically it's like got a bunch of Pantones on it. And when you're on set shooting like an HDR, you're taking film plates or whatever. A Macbeth chart kind of gives you what the colors are supposed to be. Let me see if I can pull one up. What your RGB values are supposed to be. So it looks something like this. And if you, yeah, you can see something like that. It just, it gives you an idea of what the colors are supposed to be. In the image, like if there's a green cast on it, because all these are like kind of standardized Pantone colors. So anyway, but I haven't done that yet, so let's not worry about that right now. Okay, so I've got these here, so, and this finished material, so let's build a brand new one. So let's call this demo cracked dirt material. Wait, what am I doing? Let's make an AI standard surface. Just trying to name my filter. What am I doing? Okay, so let's name this demo cracked dirt material. All right. So the first thing, let's turn that up, and we need to attach our file texture. So let me load in. Actually already have it loaded in the scene, but I'll just show you the process so it doesn't get too confusing. Soil cracked. All right, so here's the diffuse. And because we're working linearly, you can see this looks weird right now because this is, we're looking at a linear image in an sRGB format. So it looks really weird. So what we need to do is we need to take it from sRGB and take the color space and set it to raw, or it will not render correctly. So let me show you what happens if we do not set the color space correctly. So, oh, let me update the full scene because this does not displace it anymore. All right, so now we have it set to raw. That is actually what it's supposed to look like. Now if it's set to sRGB, it'll be very dark. And this may look great, you think, but this is not the correct result. Even if you want it to be this dark, what you need to do is set it to the right color space and then bring it down to this level. Like say, oh, I actually like how dark that is. Well, that's not happening because it's doing what it's supposed to. It's actually it's rendering the wrong color space. So let's take this color space back to raw, what it's supposed to be, and then we can actually gamma it down if that was our intention. So you always want to do things based on intention, not about just some like random thing that happens. Okay, so let's go in here and name these again. So I've done this a million times now, but name everything you do. So demo, cracked, dirt, placement. And we're going to name that placement node because we're going to use it for a bunch of other nodes as well. So off screen here, I'm just going to name this demo, cracked, dirt, this diffuse node. Okay, so now let's add in our specular color. This one. And set this to raw as well. And then let's also add in our displacement node. So I'll click on the AI standard shading group there, and then I will go to the shading group here. Let's name this demo cracked dirt shading group. All right, so I have the surface, the volume display material. That's what we want to attach. So I'll add the file. This displacement shader gets added. Demo cracked dirt disp shader. And for, you know, this looks really simple, and it is, but if you have a really crazy graph, you want to make sure everything is named so you can very easily access it. So it's good to have it to be in. All right, so let's put the displacement broad 1 in first. Make sure that we set the color space to raw. All right, so we have the first one plugged in. Let's see what we get. So I'm going to update the screen, or update the frame. All right, so we can see now it's bumping out with our first map here. So what we got to do is add in our other one. So we do file texture, and also something I have not been doing yet. Just add these in real quick. Demo cracked dirt disp broad 2. Okay, I didn't name this one either, for shame. Broad, or this one. My OCD is getting the best of me. Okay, so now I have all these named. I'm going to get rid of these, and we need to plug these all into the same UV output, just so that if I, for some reason, want to scale this later, they all scale together, and it's beautiful. So we don't have to go into every single node and scale them individually. So if I did this like a 0.8, all of these maps are going to scale together. Update full scene. All right, so if I did 2, see they all scale together, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so now what we're going to need to do is we need to mix these two displacements together. So I'm going to hit the isolate select, so we can, you know, take a look at what we got. We have the color here, the spec, displacement broad for the first one, and then if I put in my displacement broad 2, you can take a look at this one. Please do not crash. Oof, that was dangerous. A lot of times, if you mess with the displacement like that while this renderer is live, it will crash. So we got lucky there. All right, so that's what our displacement broad looks like. So what I want to do is do a plus minus average node. And what this is going to do is it's going to do exactly what it sounds like. We're going to take the displacement broad, put it in the first input, take the displacement broad 2, put it in the second input, and it has a few different operations that it's doing. So let me do a luminance conversion for this one, because I'm not sure how it likes if I just took one channel. Okay. So that's just taking all those RGB values and turning it into a single channel value. Okay, so a couple operations that this plus minus average thing is doing is it's either doing the sum, a subtraction, or an average. So what that means is, say that this map, the entire map is a value of 0.5. Obviously it's not, but say it is. And then this map, the entire value of this map is 0.5 as well. So if I have this plus minus average and I have it set to sum, if this is 0.5, this is 0.5, the value would be put to 1 when it outputs here. But if I had it set to average, it sounds exactly what it does. If this is 0.5 and this is 0.5, it will give you a value of 0.5. So that's the way that you can like take it, kind of they level each other out if you do that. But if you do the sum, they will increase each other by that amount. So it'll be an even more intense effect. So if I turn off this and I run that, you can see what it did is it took the average of that down displacement that I was doing and the average of this like or the cup and then the crack map, and it mixed them together to kind of do this like scoop, and then it goes down in. Just like I was trying to show you in the in Photoshop. One thing though is that I kind of want to independently change these values a little bit. I'm going to scale back. I'll actually like it to be a little bit bigger. That way I can see easier. Run the IPR on that. So I just scaled it to 0.8 for the entire node. Okay, that way we can just see what's going on a little bit better. All right, I want to take down the intensity of, I'm going to just do this crop region so I can. All right, great. So it just renders faster. All right, so I'm going to make an AI range node. And I'm going to take this displacement broad, put that in the input, take this AI range, and then replace where it was before. And I just hit 1 to collapse that because I'm going to only be modifying it from our attribute editor. Whoops, don't want that in there. Sorry, I just docked them together. Oh, I hate it when it does that. I wish I could like turn that off. There probably is a way to do automatic, turn off automatic docking. Anyways, let me move this over here. So I have my my AI range from that displacement broad selected. I'm going to turn on the isolate select. I don't think this is going to work because when it goes through a plus minus average node, it usually doesn't allow you. Yeah, it's weird like that. It'll show you the result, but it will not show you if. Let's see what I can show you what's going on here. For some reason, with these, this is like a bug, I guess. With this isolate select on, it only allows you to see the output as a final, unless I re-plug in this luminance. Let me turn this off first. If I take out this range and I put it in this luminance, then it lets me select it. For some reason, it does not allow you to select it if it's gone through this node. I do not know why. Maybe I should submit a ticket about that. But I mean, that's my only gripe about isolate select. I mean, this is an amazing feature, so I'm not too mad about it. All right, so what we need to do is bring down the values on this displacement broad 2. So I have this AI range selected here, and then in my attribute editor, it will be live over here. So let me turn on this interactive, and I'm just going to bring down the intensity of the cup. Actually, up a little bit. Sometimes that smooth step is nice. Okay, a smooth step, and just these AI ranges in general, these AI range nodes work way better when you're working linearly than whenever you're working sRGB. The ranges on these things are really finicky on sRGB, but on linear, they seem to be much better. Okay. So let's say that I'm happy with that setting. So you could do the same thing with this range over here. So, or this displacement broad. So we can try that. Run the IPR on this. So now I have the AI range selected for the other the other displacement, the one that's bumping in. So if I made this value of like -1, what it should be doing is bringing, it should leave everything else on top, but it's actually going to make those little crevices deeper. So if I did like -2, I mean, you got to be really careful when you go like huge negative values, because then you're going to like start interpenetrating the mesh and things like that. It seemed to be fine with what I'm doing right now. So smooth step did anything. Update. Usually you got to update the full scene before it'll give you like a correct display about what's going on. Right, so I'm off screen here. I'm clicking the AI range of this displacement broad 2, and let's mess with this setting a little bit. Actually, I should probably increase this. Let me just make it a value of 1. All right. You can see it's cupping that, and then it's going and then it's also bumping really deep into the ground, like it's, you know, like almost a foot deep or something. So let's look at that. One thing this needs is like kind of a higher frequency detail, because these plates are like, I mean, this is pretty low res. Let me turn up the test resolution a little bit. Let's go back to 100%. A little test range here, or crop region. All right. One thing is this thing is really specular, so I need to turn up the roughness. So I'm just selecting my demo crack dirt so that it pulls it up in my attributes over here. And let me make this live. And I'm just gonna start turning this up a little bit, because this dirt is, you know, cracked, dry dirt. So you really want it to kind of be pretty dry, not too shiny. That wouldn't make any sense. Well, maybe. All right, so cool. One thing we got to do is, yes, you can see it's like kind of soft in some areas, and obviously I'm pushing this displacement like really ridiculous. It's probably more than what it should be, but let's just put in the last file texture here, which is going to be that displacement fine. I'm just going to attach that placement node again. Let's put that into the last minus average section there, mix, whatever you want to call it. Taking this soil crack disp fine. Oh, what I need to do is I need to make sure that I set it to raw before I hook it up. I don't know if that hooks up correctly or not. Did I have this one? Oh, goodness. That was not in raw. That's a big no-no. I'm going to have to completely rebalance this now. Great. Yeah, because I was color correcting that thing this whole time in sRGB space instead of in linear, which kind of defeats the whole purpose. Okay, cool. So it's not actually too bad. But let me let's turn that down a little. Oh, it's set to 0. Let's see, 0.5. Honestly, that didn't affect it too much because we already had that like kind of turned down a little bit. All right, I'm gonna take down this -2 number. Let's do like -0.5. I do want it to be deep, but not too crazy, like how it was. All right, cool. See if that displacement finds giving a little bit extra detail. Looks like it is. Awesome. So it's just giving a little bit more high frequency detail. And if you wanted to, you could go in and, you know, mess with that a little bit more to get it to, I mean, it looks like it's a little weird looking. So I can make an AI range for that. Pause that render. So off camera here, I was just using this displacement fine, made an AI range for it. Let's plug it back in. And play. Oh, I can't do isolate select on that little bug that I was talking about earlier. All right, so let me do like 0.5. Let's actually just do a little section here just so it renders quicker. 0.3. All right, cool. So basically just adds a little bit of higher frequency detail, something we were missing before. It looks like pretty smooth. And honestly, I want the diffuse color to be a little bit darker. So what we can do is you can either do an AI range or you could do a color correct node. So let me pause this. AI color correct. And I'm taking this color correct node and I'm using the diffuse color to modify it. So AI range, AI color correct, composite nodes, and luminance, and this plus minus average are the most common things that I'm using. Once you get your workflow is going to be different. You might want to do everything in Photoshop, and that's totally fine. I like to kind of do things in the shader. Probably takes longer to render though, doing it that way. But anyway, so let me turn up the saturation a little bit, and then I want to kind of let me do isolate select so I can better see what's going on here. Let's see. For color, I'm going to game this down a little bit. See what that looks like. All right. Made it a little bit darker. Turn off that selection. Here we go. All right. So I'd say that looks fine for now. And we just did the same process that I did here with the other rock material, the rock dirt material. Let me just make an AI switch real quick. So AI switch. I showed you how to use one of these in the last video. And the way we use this AI switch is I will take the demo crack dirt. Let me pause this. The demo crack dirt, the dirt, and the other one I was using. And the sand. There's a sand. Here it is. Okay. So I had a sand material, the normal dirt, and then this demo crack dirt. So I'm just going to hit, I have all three of those materials selected here, and I'm just going to add nodes to graph. That way that I can just have these nodes and I can hook them into this AI switch node really easily. So I'll take this, plug it in there. Whoops. This into there, this into there, and this into there. So let's attach. So I just off screen there, I'll just do it this way. So I added this AI switch, add existing material, AI switch. Let me update the render here. The problem with this is that I do not know how this is going to handle displacement. Interesting. You may have to make another AI switch just for displacement because, you know, your displacement comes from the shading group, not from the material. So that's a tricky one. I'm going to have to get back to you on that. But just to show you without displacement, at least, what it's doing here, it's just mixing between the three materials that I made, the sand, the dirt, and this one, just so we can see what it actually looks like with displacement. I mean, it makes a huge difference. So I'll go to my rock dirt material, this finished one, and I'll just apply both of those. Let's update the full scene. And so this is that dirt rock material that I made earlier. Okay. I think that's the renders kind of jacked up. Okay. And then I'll go to my sand, apply my sand material. You know what? I think that like my displacement levels were all different for all three of these because the displacement's really low. Let's see here. I can pull up my attribute. I think I closed it. I hate it when I do that. All right. Sand. Oh, let's go to the shape node. Arnold, subdivisions, displacement. Yeah, I turned it way down. So let's put it like a value of 1. That is ridiculous. So it's probably like 0.5 is reasonable. Maybe let's just try 0.1, see what that looks like. That's probably somewhere closer. I didn't really spend too much time with this material though. Oops. Weird. Oh, it's like bugging out. All right. And then, oh, I've got some weird issues here with my, I think I've like kind of bugged it out. All right. So anyway, let's, oh yeah, it's really weird. Okay. Hold on a second. I ended up like kind of bugging out my scene and had to reload it. Sometimes like, you know, when you're working with the displacement and, you know, running different materials or different stuff, it's going to, you know, do some kooky things. So, all right. So here's my final materials for each one of these, with the final settings for each one. And, so yeah, so this is the sand and this is the dirt and the cracked dirt. So you can just do the same process that I did with the cracked dirt and do any type of material. But for these, I just did dirts. So yeah, that's it for this material. This tutorial with these 3. So I will see you in the next video.